أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا وسيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. uh, Welcome brothers and sisters. Inshallah we're gonna continue reading from Masnavi Nuriya, and we will be visiting some of the letters that the Ustad has written. Depending on the flow, we might be, branching to those letters as well. So today, I think we have Colin Hoja and Nejati Hoja. Welcome, Abi. Salam.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you, Colin Hoja, Nejati Hoja, if you don't have anything in particular you would like to mention before I start, I can directly jump into the text and then start reading.
Yeah,
Okay.
please go ahead. I think I don't have anything. Maybe Kolna will have something from last week.
No, I wasn't present last week.
Okay, then let me start. Introduction of Raplet from Masnavi Nuriya. Know that in my 40 years of life journey and 30 years of pursuing knowledge, I have obtained 4 words and 4 sentences. The details of this will come. Here I am pointing to it in summary. As for the words, they are other indicative meaning, nominative meaning, intention, and viewpoint. So I think in the original text, these are other indicative meaning is mana-i harfi, mana-i ismi, niyet, nazar. So these are the four words, dört söz. This is what I mean. Anything other than one, exalted is he, should be viewed with the other indicative meaning, and on account of the one exalted is he. Viewing the cosmos with the nominative meaning, that is, on account of causes, is a mistake. Everything has 2 faces, one facing the real and the other facing the realm of being. The face facing the realm of being has to be considered other indicatively and as a title for the aspect of the nominative meaning that relates to the one exalted is he. For example, a blessing has to be seen as a mirror to the act of blessing, while intermediaries and causes have to be seen as mirrors to disposal of divine power. Likewise, indeed, viewpoint and intention transform the qualities of things, and thus they turn evil deeds into good deeds. Just like an elixir that turns soil into gold, intention turns ordinary actions into worship, and viewpoint turns the knowledge of the realms of being into divine gnosis. Hence, if viewed on account of causes and intermediary instruments, it is ignorance upon ignorance, and if viewed on account of Allah, it is divine gnosis. I can also read the letter from Barla, or if you want to add anything at this point, we can listen to you, either of you. Okay.
I have a problem with the with some of the language here. Nominative doesn't make sense for mana ismi, because it doesn't. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Nominative is a grammatical term which relates to the subject of a finite verb. For example, if you say I ate my dinner, the I is the subject of that verb. So grammatically, that's nominative. What mana ismi is okay, Ism, we know his name, but we have to be a bit more creative with the translation. And I've used self-referential, which isn't perfect, but at least it means a thing that refers only to itself. In other words, its meaning is contained in itself, such as the word book. Book doesn't refer to anything but itself. The word book, or the word apple, or the word cat. These are only nominative if they are the subject of sentences, right? So nominative doesn't work for as a translation. So that is my first. It's not really a observation. It's just my first criticism of the language of this.
Okay. Okay, then maybe in the following part of the discussion, we should use directly abi mana-i ismi and mana-i harfi, and then maybe we should just try explaining those meanings, and then without any translation, we should directly use those words so that the meanings are well established in our minds. Because I agree that the translation might be deceiving, especially in this case. It's a very particular. It's a terminology in the original language, so translating terminology might cause problems. Would that be okay if I just say mana ismi, mana harfi in the following parts?
As long as everyone is clear what they mean.
Okay.
Well, actually, we even use shorter one. I think it's better. Some members of Americans prefer always shorter version. We just call it ismi and harfi, that's all. So I think it's that you can say a harfi perspective of harfi meaning, or ismi perspective, ismi meaning. I think that's enough for communication, I guess. Even mana, that, is another, but I think you can just say ismi and harfi. That would be good enough, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Well. So this wrong translation is also serving the purpose of learning those meanings. But so I guess in the first part, Ustad is pointing to four words, and when he says four words, these are relatively brief, short phrases which mean to very long and deep meanings. So these are mana-i harfi, mana-i ismi, intention, niyah, and viewpoint, which is nazar. Let me go and read the maktub, the letter which is in Barla addendum.
I think the letter is going to kind of explain a little bit. It's better to understand the first part. Keep in mind, this is took 30 years of learning and 40 years of life for Ustads to came up with this concept. For me personally, I have been dealing with those concepts almost 10 years. And I'm still struggling to understand. Okay, so don't rush it. I don't think you're gonna finish it those in like just in 40 minutes. Because this part, it's very, very essential. And I know, Kolnabe has been dealing with those concepts for a long time as well. I think it's, if we want to really get some deep meaning, and I'm here really, again, not like I want to share, I'm here still see what are the, let's say, undiscovered treasure in those concepts that I can learn, inshallah, from everyone. And that's the reason that I look at it, because I actually consider those are, I say it's, when this part was written, Ustad was 40 years old. And, but then what did he do for the rest of his life? I say the rest of his life is also, was basically in a way practicing and promoting those four words. So I kind of see those four words and four sentences kind of summarize everything that Ustad's tried to do in his life and came to understanding first and practice second and preach third, perhaps share with us. Therefore, I don't know, it's really, there are many things we need to really look at it in terms of like even the order of those words, the relationship between them, and obviously, and why it's really why it took that long time for him to come to this understanding. And, can we, after reading that, just easily grasp and say, okay, in 1 hour we learn and now we can go and just practice that? It is, so what does he mean? It took, let's say, 30 years of learning, 40 years of life to get that. Does he refer in terms of really, having those concepts, or does he refer to internalizing that in a sense that to really get to the deep meaning of it in his own personal experience? That I think that those are, and then also, what are the connection between those 4 sentences and 4 words? I think there are many, many questions here. I want to hear from Colin Abi, really, what is his take on that? Because this is part really, we have been working on this for almost 10 years, and I really still see this as one of amazing concepts that's like a puzzle to solve. I just want to hear from Colin Abi what he has done on this whole concept, and what are the significance of those concepts from his own perspective.
Well, I'm of the same mind as you, Najati. Ustad Nursi is talking about 40 years of his life journey and 30 years of pursuing knowledge. In other words, over 70 years, he's been working out these 4 words and 4 sentences. And basically, how I understand it is that these four words exemplify his basically his epistemic position, right? His interpretive stance towards the universe. Without these 4 terms, his a worldview is not possible. In other words, without navigating these terms, a worldview or a world's view, because we're talking about multiple worlds. We have Alam al-Mulk, Alam al-Shahada, and we have all of the realms which exist within them. These are the 4, how you can say, explanatory terminologies which allow him to navigate the whole of the universe. So there is the notion of the other indicative, there is the notion of the self-referential, there is the intention which is behind the pursuit of these worldviews, and then of course there is the nazar, which is the viewpoint, which is our viewpoint as human beings looking at the creation. If our intention is to understand things as they are, from the perspective of a human being who is ajiz and faqir, then we have no option but to read the creation in either of 2 ways. Either we read it as ismi, or we read it as harfi, and these are mutually exclusive. You can't read them you can't read the creation in ismi and harfi ways, because they don't match, they don't mix together. It's like oil and water, they can't blend. Either you read it in an ismi way, or you read it in a harfi way. And there's no other way of reading. So if we're reading it in an ismi way, it means when we look at, I'll use the old example of the tree. When we look at the tree, all we see its externals, which is fine. We see it has wood, and it has a trunk, and it has branches, and it has leaves. It's a particular color, a particular height. It's useful for particular things. But that's all it is. It's just a tree. It doesn't mean anything over and above itself. So this is the very heart of materialism. The tree may be valuable. For a carpenter, it may be valuable. For someone who sells the fruit of the tree, it may be valuable. For someone who enjoys looking at the tree in the garden, just as an ornament, it may be valuable. But for other people, it may be next to useless. If they have no material use for it, they may not even consider it. Materialism sees only the externals. Now, externals, that when we say ismi, we don't mean externals. This is what a lot of people mistake, I think. When they say manai ismi, they think we mean zahir. The zahir of things is not manai ismi. Manai ismi means seeing the zahir and seeing only the zahir, and also giving it no meaning over and above itself. So the tree is just a tree. It doesn't signify anything. It doesn't mean anything. It has no transcendent meaning. It doesn't point to anything other than to itself. And this is the very sir of the very mystery. Well, actually, it's not a mystery at all. This is the heart of materialism. The world is matter in motion, and the tree is part of the world. The tree doesn't mean anything. It may have a kind of materialistic meaning. In other words, it means profit. If you can sell it, it means profit. But when we go to harfi, this is other indicative. The tree, obviously, because it can't create itself, is speaking about the one who did create it. Nothing can self-create, right? We know this. So the tree is obviously pointing to the one who created it. Now, then you have to decide what your nazar is, right? And that comes from your niyyah. Are you going to say that the causes create this, or chance creates it, or somehow it evolved from some kind of cataclysmic explosion at the beginning of time? You have to decide then what your nazar is, and your nazar will depend on your niyyah. So these four words actually are indicative of, or they exemplify Hazrat Ustad's whole epistemological and ontological project, which is trying to understand what existence is and what our position is within existence. These are my initial comments.
Very good. Yeah, I want to add some, I think it's a very good point. The essential part here to really get the meaning of ismi and harfi correctly, as you mentioned, Kolnabi, I think it's the way I look at it, essentially, harfi is all about the meaning that inscripted in the creation. Ismi is just the material side that basically used to give such meaning. So in a way that now I'm looking at screen, let's say I see the text of this from translation of Masnavi, but that text has, let's say, certain fonts, has the font certain size, has certain color. So if I look at those, all this is the ismi dimension. But when I look to those who put them together and then read the meaning that conveyed to me through the arrangement of these 26 letters in English, that is the harfi dimension. So the harfi is to look at now this, Masnavi translation and drive the meaning. Ismi is basically to just look at the, shape and to look at the size of the font, the color of the font, and just focus on that side. That's the ismi dimension. So ismi dimension is real too, but essentially what really matters for me now when I look at the screen is the meaning of what is on the screen. It's not, I don't care about the pixels, the font, the color, unless I'm really like, I'm let's say a web designer try to look at that, or the book designer to look at that, that's something else. So in that case, that's harfi and ismi. What I look at basically, what Nursi take it, it's like, this is for whole creation. It really, whenever I read this topic, I say, his entire life was really just nothing but in a way to get the harfi perspective and look at everything through the harfi perspective. In a way that it really reminds me, I see enormous, a kind of similarity between Heidegger and Nursi, because I saw Heidegger, when I read Heidegger, that he spent his entire life telling us that don't look at the thing, as an object. Those has a meaning. It's like a book. And his whole life was in a way to really tell us that the things is not an object. We objectify the thing, but it has a meaning. But unfortunately, it's like the guy is telling those are books, but he didn't know how to read it. And he did not manage to read because he didn't have the divine guidance to read the book of creation. But Nursi, through the light of Quran, not only telling us that everything has a meaning, which means that's the harfi, and he's actually, through the light of Quran, showing us how to read everything as an ayah. So that is, I think, the first things. Now, when I look at that, it's essentially, this is the part, as I mentioned, really, and every time reading and try to really understand and the deep meaning. So it starts, the order here is start with the harfi, then ismi, then niya, then nazar. If we look at that, why this is the case? So to me, is that harfi comes first, because basically he's saying that when you look at anything, you're supposed to look in terms of its meaning. When you look at the book, you don't look at the book in terms of the paper quality. If you really, let's say, a good reader, whenever you see a great book, you're just curious about the meaning inside the book. So what really attracts your attention is the harfi dimension. So therefore, he starts with the harfi first, then ismi second. Unfortunately, in materialism, we look at ismi first and harfi comes second. So in other words, we actually have to, in a way, work hard to go beyond the ismi and to see the harfi dimension. While he put it very interestingly, he says, first comes harfi, then come ismi, then niya and nazar. Actually, I think there is a big connection there as well. Now, once we realize that the existence has two dimensions, harfi and ismi dimension, which means there is a physical, factual side, but there is a meaning side, and everything has a meaning. Now, then what would you do? So in that case, you see he came up with niya and nazar. And niya comes first, nazar comes second. So niya is actually its intention of reading the creation. So the intention has to be first, because we know the attention follow intention. So in that case, if our intention is, this is a book I want to read, our attention will go toward the meaning. Or if our intention is, this is just a piece of paper, our attention will go toward the material side, not the meaning side. So in that case, he puts the niyyah before nazar. And nazar, actually, I don't look at nazar as a viewpoint. I look at nazar as a reflective reading of creation. Because when we look at the Quran, فَانْظُرْ إِلَىٰ آثَارِ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ is actually nazar in Quranic term. It is a reflective way of looking at the creation. It's not like, tara or yara, that you look with the eyes. It's actually, you look with reflection, which means that in this case, what I understand, he's saying, look, once you understand that two dimension of creation, the harfi and ismi dimension, then you set your niyyah to read the harfi dimension, and then you basically start to fandur, you start to read. So in that case, nazar there, I see is a tafakkur, in a way that you have a reflective, in a way, viewpoint as you look, but you reflect on what really attract to your attention based on your intention. So that's what I see, the reason that even in the order of those things. And obviously, you can look at everything in that way. You can look at, bird, the camel, or rain, as the Quran describes it. And you can look at also your life in this way. So you can look at everything as a meaningful unfolding revelation on ayah. And then if you see in that way and with the intention to read that, then now you can actually have the reflection, nazar, and then you start to read it. So nazar is, in a way, is an act of reading the creation through the harfi perspective. That's what really I kind of understand and see how those four concepts and the order of those concepts here are connected with such a reasoning. Allahu A'lam. I don't know, whether we agree or disagree.
I agree that nazar is reading the creation, how it should be read in the harfi. in the Harfi way, but I would disagree about calling Ma'na Ismi a dimension of creation. Ma'na Ismi is a perspective, and it's a mistaken perspective. I think maybe this is a semantics issue here, but when we look at the Zahir of creation, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the tree, and the tree can be has dimensions, it has colors. That's the Zahir. I think we have to move away from thinking that when we say that Ma'na Ismi, we're talking about the Zahir. The Zahir is a dimension of creation, but Ma'na Ismi is an incorrect perspective. It is an incorrect nazar, because what the Ma'na Ismi nazar does, it says that the things are only their Zahir. And that is not a dimension, that's a misreading of creation. So Ma'na Ismi is not a dimension of creation. The Zahir is a dimension, and it's a sound dimension, it's fine, but there is a batin, right? And what basically Ismi and Hafi is doing is saying there is only a Zahir, and it's only the Zahir that means anything. And it doesn't have a batin, it doesn't have a meaning. So I think that Ma'na Ismi and Ma'na Hafi are perspectives. And there is only one of them which is correct. And I don't think that Ma'na Hafi is a dimension. But what you were saying about Nazar being the correct way of reading the creation, i.e. in the Harfi way, I think is definitely correct.
Kunab, I agree and disagree. I think it's a very good point. The key part here, I will say that was exactly my understanding when I started to first read several years ago. But it took me a few years to came to the understanding, and that is really that those are concepts need to be dealt carefully. So I agree with you that there is only one correct nazar, and the Ismi nazar is absolutely mistaken. And there is only one way of nazar, that's the Harfi nazar, which means nazar here is a way of reading the creation as we describe, and you agree on that one. So in this case, there is only one correct way of reading. If this text is written in English, there is only one way for me to read that, period. There is no second way, because this is written in English and I'm looking in screen that if I want to read, I have to actually know, the English language, I can read it. Otherwise, I will be mistaken. So in this regard, there's only one correct nazar, which means one correct way of reading creation. But there are actually two dimensions of creation. So in this case, I separate them. Let me give you an example, see whether it makes sense. Imagine that we're talking about a traffic light. So the traffic light, if you basically look at the material composition, look at the shape, look at the color, look at the cost of the traffic light, that is all actually Ismi dimension. But if you actually look at the meaning of traffic light, which let's say red stop, green go, that is the Harfi dimension. So in that's the Harfi nazar. So in that case, basically what I mean that the traffic light has two different dimensions. And one dimension is traffic light has, there's basically the physical side, and you can study that. That's the Ismi dimension as an existence. But that Ismi dimension is out there to give the meaning of Harfi. So in that case, the Harfi dimension is the meaning that's embedded or reflected on Ismi dimension. So in that case, if I ignore the meaning of traffic light and do the whole teaching only on the, let's say, I'm not saying Zahir, because it could be Batin as well in the Ismi dimension. Everything that is basically about, even the plan of making the traffic light still is Ismi, but it is Batin, but it's still Ismi. But ultimately, the whole purpose, the meaning of traffic light is to tell you when it's red, you stop, when it's green, you go. So the meaning is the Harfi. So in that case, when I look at it, when I study traffic light, I am supposed my reading should be point toward the meaning. There's only one meaning of the traffic light, which is red, stop, green, go. That's the nazar. That's how I read that. But when I, look at the traffic light, I can see there's one part is a self-referential, as this means is revealing itself. There's one side is actually, it is in a way reveal the meaning, point to something else. The letter that we're going to read is from, I think, Zabarlallah Qasa, I guess. That letter is actually in a way that, to me, that was the place that I came to this understanding. I said there must be ismi and harfi dimension of existence, but there's obviously only one nazar. That means only one way of reading the existence. That's how I separate. Again, I don't know whether I was clear enough or whether I'm right or not. That's other things, but that's my understanding. I came and I try to explain. But again, right or wrong, that's something we can you can point to that, discuss that.
Okay, so the discussion is taking paces, but I would like to interact with you if it is possible. So my understanding is a little bit closer to what Colin Hoja is telling. So when you look at the traffic light and just look at it as just some mechanical or electrical device and not being able to, or not, having the intention of looking at to which meaning it points to is a thing. But at the end of the day, when I look at the meaning that the traffic light is referring to, I can still say, oh, what a beautiful set of rules, I could say. But on the other hand, I can say, oh, what a good set of rules, and somebody has established those rules so that we can have a good, city life. Then, so I start with looking at the traffic lights and then see the meaning behind that. But when I see the meaning behind that, then I can still look for further and question what is behind establishment of this meaning. And I say, oh, there's a ruler in the city which just sits down and then thinks about what rules could be put and make people follow those rules so that people have a good city life. And then I can still ask the question, oh, how did this guy made it to learn that he has to put rules so that people have a good life in the city? Then I would say, oh, this guy should have had a good university education. Then I would say, oh, what a good university. And then I would say, okay, who has decided upon the curriculum and the practices and theoretical lectures that was taught in this university? And then the list is going to go on and on. So I can always get stuck intentionally or unintentionally at what I'm looking, or ask questions about what should be there behind that veil. But I think what Ustad is telling here is that, okay, so there are two perspectives, mana ismi, mana harfi, but I think Ustad is in particular referring to the fact that at every level, there is a meaning behind that thing, whatever you're looking at, which directly points to the creator. So comment if you have any objections to this, but I think the meaning here is rather than philosophical, it is more related to Tawheed.
Yeah, can I come in there?
Yes.
The reason why I particularly insist on saying it's perspectival is that if there were such a thing as an Ismi dimension to creation, it would be khair. And everything that we know from Ustad is that an Ismi perspective is proscribed. The only thing that is self-referential is Allah. The only thing that doesn't have a meaning over and above itself or himself is Allah. Everything there's ma siwa Allah, everything that is not Allah points to him. So it cannot have an Ismi perspective. It cannot point to itself. But when we believe that there is no link between creation and Allah, we look at the tree and we see the tree, and all we see is the tree. We don't see any meaning. The tree only has actually one dimension. The tree is pointing to Allah. We give it another dimension and we say, it's a tree, it has no meaning, it's only good for material use and for our material well-being. And we kind of confer upon it an existence that it doesn't have. We say it's pointing to itself. Now, this has to be perspectival, this has to be nazar. It can't be, maybe this is what Najati Bey means, but it can't actually be a dimension of creation. Zahir is a dimension of creation, Batin is a dimension of creation, but perspectives cannot be dimensions of creation because they are perspectival and they are relational and they are what we derive from our understanding of creation. So when I look at the tree as a materialist, I say, well, why are you asking me about the meaning? This tree has no meaning for me other than that I can cut it down and sell its wood and make a profit from it. But there's no transcendent meaning to it. My perspective my perspective is not a dimension of creation. My perspective is batil and is Adam. Because what I'm saying is the tree has no meaning. So this is an Adami perspective, and therefore it's proscribed. It's batil. So this maybe we're just getting lost in the semantics of it. But I don't see Esmi and Harfi as dimensions of creation. I see them as I see Harfi as the reality of creation, in that everything points to Allah. Now, if we choose not to see it, if we choose to strip it of its transcendent meaning, then that is our misguided perspective.
Yeah, Conrad, I understand the following. I don't know, like, let's say right now I'm looking at the screen. As I mentioned, there's text there, I guess, in your screen as well. And the text composed of a range of certain English letters. So when you look at each letter by itself, in that case, basically each letter had its own point to itself. That's the ismi. But when I actually put those letters together, and I see there is a meaning behind this arrangement, and the meaning is conveyed through the arrangement of this letter. So what I mean that there are two dimensions, I mean there is the reality that there are letters, and those letters point to themselves individually. But then I say that when those letters, you look at them and put them together, you see those letters are there is actually to give you the meaning beyond themselves. And that's the harfi dimension. So that's what I mean, like in a way that let's say when you look at the tree composed of, let's say, cells, composed of elements, atoms. But those elements and atoms, when they come together, when you look at the way they are arranged in a meaningful, orderly, wise way, it points to the creator. It becomes mirror to the divine names. But if you look at them in terms of its composition, you will see atom, you will see the cells, you will see the inside, something inside that, and you will not find any meaning individually. But that's why I'm saying, but ultimately, it's like, again, I think he's going to use this example. This letter is very interesting to see how you're going to look at it. It's like he will say, it's a mirror. What are you looking? Are you looking at the glass, or are you looking at the reflection in the glass? Now, what is the glass and what is the reflection? And he will actually swap the ismi and harfi. He will say, oh, depends on how you look at it. Depends on the nazar. What is your intention? Do you want to see the glass, or do you want to see the reflection in the glass? That depends on that one. He will say, this is the harfi and this is the ismi. He will actually change those wording. That's really in this letter, he will change this wording for that. And that was the place when I read it first, I said, like, well, it means like, it's really, that both exist, depends on how you look at it. What is your first and what's your second, let's say, attention in terms of what you try to read in the creation. I don't know, Allah Alam.
Yeah, I think the problem there is that if we start seeing things as having an Esmi dimension, it's giving a kind of reality to something which cannot exist. We never see anything that refers solely to itself. Even when you see a letter, you know that that letter, for example, B, it can only give meaning when it's referring to something else, and it will always refer to something else. It will still have a meaning over and above itself. you know, as a piece of writing on a paper.
But then you're going to be wahdatul wujud, right? That you say there's nothing. But if you say there's something, that something is actually the mirror, is ismi dimension on which there is a manifestation of the divine names, isn't it?
Then I see this as the zahir. I see this as the mirror. The mirror is not ismi. The mirror again is there. It has a transcendent meaning. It's there to reflect. So everything is a mirror. I don't see this as leading to wahdatul wujud. Someone's put in the oh, it's gone in the chat.
So
there's quite a few things in the chat.
Yeah, one of the messages in the chat is actually the letters in Barla like us. Maybe I should start reading that, because Ustad is coming up with some explanations in the text. Ustad is saying you're looking at the mirror, but so and so. Let me start reading Arabic. As for your second question about the discussion of harfi and ismi and harfi meanings, in addition to being explained at the beginning of most books on the science of Arabic grammar, there are sufficient elucidations about the matter that explain it with representations in the treatises of the science of reality called the words and the letters. It is unnecessary to offer too much explanation to an intelligent and meticulous person like you. Suppose, okay, this is where the metaphor starts. Suppose you're looking at a mirror. If you look at it for the glass, then you behold the glass on purpose. In it, the sight catches the effect incidentally. If the purpose is to look at the mirror to see your blessed countenance, then you behold the amiable Rafat on purpose. You say, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. May Allah, the most beautiful, excellent Creator, bless you. The glass of the mirror remains incidental. Your sight catches it indirectly. So, in the first case, the glass of the mirror is the nominative, is the ismi meaning. Rafat becomes the harfi meaning. In the second case, the glass of the mirror is the harfi meaning. That is to say, it is not being viewed for itself. It is being viewed for another meaning, which is the reflection. The reflection is the ismi meaning. That is to say, the reflection is included in the definition of noun in one respect, which is indicates a meaning in itself. As for the mirror, it becomes a confirming example of the definition of particle, which is indicates a meaning in other than itself. Okay, so Ustad is coming to the conclusion. From the viewpoint of the Quran, all existent beings of the cosmos are particles, huruf, or huruf maybe letters. They express the meaning of someone else with the other indicator with the harfi meaning. That is to say, they inform about his names and attributes. In most cases, spiritless philosophy looks at the ismi meaning. It becomes bogged down in the swamp of nature. So what I understand from this part is that whatever we do, we will be turning our gaze to the mirror. So in terms of staring towards the mirror is something that we can't change and we don't really care about it. But when we look towards the mirror, what part of the view we are pursuing and what part of the view we are concentrating our attention on is changing the game. Either we will be looking at the mirror for its glass, or we will be looking at the mirror to see what there is in it. And then the thing that we see in the mirror will make us say, MashaAllah, because in the mirror we will be seeing, probably in this context, something beautiful, which is a creation of Allah. Yeah, and also I would like to take it a little bit further, deeper. So we are discussing these meanings. I mean, we are discussing these four words, and in particular, ismi and harfi meaning. So we are looking at the images of those words in our minds, and our minds in this case becomes the mirror. But in that mirror, we are seeing the secondary meanings that these words cause, what these words cause the emergence of. So at the end of the day, these words or the discussion, when it is made for the sake of understanding those meanings, is not the ultimate goal that I think we should be aiming for. And our efforts in understanding those meanings should go for understanding what I should take from this discussion in order to understand what Allah is meaning when He's manifesting on this universe. So this mirror metaphor is kind of recursive. So whatever you look at, there's also another mirror, and in that there's another mirror, and in that there's another mirror. It goes all the way down to the Creator, Allah. Colin Hocam, you mentioned this. There's only one being, who is Allah, who can be looked at only by Ismi Harfi, I think you said, right? Sorry, the Mana Ismi you said.
Allah is the only being that doesn't refer to something else.
Yeah.
Everything else refers to Him.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, Nebi, I think wants to make.
Colin, did you solve the puzzle here? Did you see that in the mirror example, he is saying in the first reflection is harfi, in the second he says reflection is me. So these
are perspectives. If you can swap them around like that, then they can't be dimensions. They have to be perspectives.
But again, do you see that his ismi is not wrong here, right? So it's not is not like ismi wrong, harfi wrong. The point here is that really what he's trying to describe and say, what are you looking, and what is the direct things that you perceive, and what is indirectly is pointing to. So whatever is indirect pointing, the meaning that's pointing, we call this harfi. Whatever you directly perceive is coined ismi. So
I don't agree at all. Whatever you perceive is the zahir of the creation. It's the zahir of the creation. If you say that the zahir is all that there is and it has no meaning, then your perspective becomes an ismi perspective.
No, remember the example says if you want to look at the mirror, if you when you look at the mirror for the reflection, then the glass become ismi and the reflection in the mirror become harfi. Right?
I would disagree with this because ismi is a perspective.
No, I don't know. That was the letter was saying that.
Okay, Nebi Abi, maybe Nebi Abi has a thing to say about this. We should clarify.
Yeah, I want to say something about this.
Please, Nebi.
This harf and ism, as we know from Arabic grammar, harf is not the letter. Harf is the word, actually, in Arabic grammar. Then in Arabic grammar, there are three types of the words. One is fi'l. Fi'l is out of our scope now. The other two is ism and harf. Then ism itself has a meaning, but harf doesn't have a meaning just itself, but it helps to the meaning of the other. Why? How? For example, L is harf. Min is harf. Ila is harf in Arabic.
Prepositions.
These are harf, in Arabic. Then manai harfi, for example, min al bayt, that means that min is helping the bayt, then in order to understand another thing, Then when we look at the creation, if we see the creation just itself has a meaning, then this is the perspective, and we call this perspective is called manai ismi perspective. That means that it has itself a meaning. the creation has a meaning just itself. But if we say that whole creation is helping to the meaning of another, that means that meaning of creator, then everything is helping to understand asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then if we look to everything in that perspective, this is the perspective of Manai Harfi. But if we look at the things, all the creation, if they have just themselves have meaning, but this is the perspective, but that's not the correct way. There are Zahir. Zahir is okay. It's a dimension. It is actually there. But if we look the Zahir, we have to go to the meaning. Then everything meaning is helping to reach either attribute and a beautiful name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, this is the perspective. And we have to look, we have to understand the Manai Harfi perspective is the correct one. But Manai Ismi perspective is only looking the things with the worldly, with themselves, only they have meaning with themselves. This is the perspective, and it's not correct. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Okay. I would agree completely with that.
And actually, I would like to, kindly say that maybe we should not try to correlate Ism Zahir and Ism Batin, because these are two on their own deep meanings, and depending on which perspective you're looking at one thing, one aspect might be Zahir, but the same meaning might be Batin with respect to something else. So there's some recursion here which needs to be discussed in deep. Maybe we should stick with the definitions that Nabi Abi has also mentioned. And Ali Abi is here, I guess, Ali Çetinkaya. Maybe he has a few things to say.
But before you go to him, the Zahir and the Batin, they are truly dimensions of existence. There is a Zahir and there is a Batin. They're not perspectives. The problem occurs is when we discard the idea that there is a Batin. And this is what happened with the scientific revolution and with the knowledge revolution. The idea of Batin was discarded completely, and all that remains is the Zahir. And the problem then is the Zahir doesn't have a meaning over and above itself. So the perspective of modern man, modernity, is an Ismi perspective. And that is looking at the Zahir dimension of creation and seeing that's all that there is. There is no Batin. In other words, there is no other meaning other than the things in and of themselves. And we know that a tree doesn't mean anything in and of itself. It exists, it can be used, it has material, and that's all fine. But for the materialist, it has no meaning. And so the materialistic perspective is an Ismi perspective. And as Nabi Bey was saying, this is a completely wrong perspective.
But again, I think so that was exactly my position many years ago, but I strongly now disagree with this. I think so, it's like basically in terms of the reading, there's only Harfi means that there's only true meaning, one meaning of creation, that's Nazar. So there's only one true Nazar, that's the Manai Harfi Nazar. Therefore, in Masnavi, if we pay attention, he will say, if you look at through the Manai Ismi Nazar is mistaken. He will never say, if you look at the Manai Ismi is mistake. He will say Manai Ismi Nazar is mistake. And then it will say, you need to look at Manai Harfi Nazar. Because Nazar here is how you reflect and read the meaning. There is only one meaning, and that's true, and that's the Harfi. But there are actually two dimensions of the creation, like basically the word, the ladder show itself, but the ladder come together and show the meaning. So in this case, the tree show itself, but the tree also actually become mirror and show the creator. Now, ultimately, I might agree with Colin Nabi that if you really get to the level, you don't see anything but you see Allah, then you say there is no Ismi in reality. I agree, maybe that's very highest level. But for us that who live in this world, that to say there is no Ismi dimension, that everything is a Harfi, it's like to say there is no really letter, that's just a meaning in the book. But
I
the
disagree.
meaning,
I disagree because we see the tree, right? But ma'anaya ismi, the key is in ma'ana, and ma'ana is derived. It's a meaning that's derived, and there is
from
only
the ismi
one.
dimension. See,
No,
ma'na
no,
right from the ismi dimension.
from the zahir, from what we see,
No,
right?
I think zahir batin is a little bit different. Zahir is what is visible. But
Precisely.
there could
So
be something not visible, still could be ismi. See, because like you have an atom is not visible, but still ismi actually, because it's matter.
yeah, but no, what I mean by but atom is part of alam shahada, right? So zahir
Yeah.
means alam shahada. It doesn't mean alam qayb mutlaq, right? Qayb mutlaq is the only true meaning. I'm not saying that we discount the creation, but the creation doesn't. The creation can be seen from a mana ismi perspective, but it doesn't have an ismi dimension. It has a material dimension, it has a created dimension, it has a hadith dimension, but ma'naya ismi, ma'naya harfi, we don't see anything that refers only to itself. Show me one thing that refers only to itself.
No, again, what I'm saying,
what I understand is, I'm trying to clarify things. So Allah is constant. So His sunnah is constant. It's not changing. But as we humans, we have to also include ourselves in this discussion as well, because we are created and we have not tuned for perfection. For example, when I look at a tree, I can see its shape, its color, the apple hanging at its twig. And then I can say, what a beautiful tree. So the second person, one of the Arabis, might come and look at the same tree and then see what a beautiful tree, the beautiful tree, and then say, oh, how beautiful it is created. So in this example, myself and the other Arabi is looking at the same creation, exactly same creation. However, it is the perspective which is changing the outcome. I say, what a beautiful tree, and then I just stop there. And both of us are looking at the zahir of the tree, if we're considering this as a material thing. But then let's say I say, I'm playing the bad guy. I say, oh, what a beautiful tree. Thanks to the tree that we are feeding ourselves and families and animals. So this is a meaning. The second meaning is slightly more veiled, which is towards the bottom side. And the Arabi also looks at this and says, oh, what a beautiful tree. It is not only beautiful externally, but it is also the cause of the life to continue. It's feeding myself, it's feeding my family. Allah has given the tree the ability to feed or to be means for feeding this. Allah is exploiting or employing this tree in providing us with sustenance. Allah is all-knowing. Allah knows me. Allah knows the tree, and then puts this beautiful order on the surface of the earth, and then He is making this sustenance cycle going on. We are again looking at the same thing. We are looking at the fact that tree is a means for life to continue. But for example, I say, oh, the system is perfect. And then the Arabi says the system is made perfect. And then we go a little bit further and say, oh, the atoms in the tree are acting so orderly. And then I say,
I think the problem
it goes on like this. So no matter which side of things, more zahir or more batin, I think at the end of the day, it boils down to what you are attributing these beautiful things to you, because it is in 23rd word, iman bir intisaptır. Iman is just attributing whatever thing you're looking at to its creator. So when I think
the difference is this. The difference is when you look at the tree, the example you mentioned, that when you say it's a beautiful tree, you're mistaken because you attribute the beauty to the tree, that you don't understand the tree is a mirror. What is reflected in the tree is actually the beauty of Allah. So therefore, you're mistaken. Our argument here is that there is a tree. The tree is like a mirror. And the mirror of the tree is ismi dimension. The reflection in the mirror is the harfi dimension. Both of them are true. So, but when you look at the mirror, you're not supposed to look at the mirror for the sake of glasses. You're supposed to look at the mirror for the sake of reflection in the mirror. So for that perspective, for this perspective, we say that the harfi nazar is the only right way to look at the creation, because the creation is just mirror, only reflecting the creator. But there is the, let's say, reality of creation that in terms of pointing to itself to a certain level in terms of the glass of the mirror, that's what we call it the ismi dimension. I think that's the part we somehow have a disagreement, and Allahu Alam, that's again, we can, for Ustad took it 40 years, perhaps we need to have a long discussion to really get more clarification on that. That now we understand why it took a long time, maybe.
I think we have to see whether anything actually does point to itself. If you can show me something that points to itself in actuality, in reality, as a created reality, then I will agree that...
ultimately, you're right. But again, look, if we use the mirror example, is there a glass of mirror, or will you say everything is just a reflection in the mirror? But there is glass of the mirror.
There is a glass of the mirror, but it has no meaning in and of itself, because it's there to reflect.
No, we're not talking about meaning. We are talking in terms of the existence, reality.
Then its existence, yes. I mean, ontologically,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
it has a created reality.
Exactly.
But that's nothing to do with mana ismi.
No, we're not talking.
I think misunderstanding is coming from this. Yeah, we agree there is existence. Yeah, all material, all the things, there is existence. But with themselves, they do not have meaning. Yeah, we say this. But if you say just themselves, they have a meaning, yeah, this is the mana ismi. But mana ismi is not the correct way. You also state this. I think we can compromise here. Thank you.
Okay. So the discussion is going on. Maybe we should stop here because the time has already passed.
Razgar has a question.
Yeah, Abi, if it is short, we can listen to you, Razgar Abi. Okay, Razgar Abi is not unmuting. Okay, maybe. Alaikum salam.
I'll try to make it very, very short, my point. And I really apologize for taking the time of yours. I think the solution for this problem is by adding one more layer of mirror, because Ustad says that every person is like a universe, as every person is like a mirror that is facing, for example, in a room, all the walls are like mirrors. So we can say that the ma'nai ismi can have existence, but not in the real room, not in the real universe. We can give it existence in our own mirrors. So we can change our mirrors, but we cannot change anything in the real universe. Thank you.
Okay, Jazakallah. Okay, so obviously, if you don't have anything else, so I'm gonna finalize today's discussion. Okay. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.